Welcome, and this is the Grassroots Education and Entertainment Network, your number one source of information, education, and entertainment. For honest, responsible, and dependable information, we stand supreme. To stay focused, inspired, and relaxed, choose green. Ekabo, and welcome to the Ifa Orisa this community discussion show. And I would like to introduce to you the host for today's show, as always, Baba Iwaliwa. Switch on your mic, Baba.
Abura boye. What she say? Well, first I like to say or we keep for issue because like issue gave me some trouble these days. Baba issue direction la logi yoko. Okomi orieta ajo langa la lu. Are lanja la lu. Ode ibija demole. Ija ni otari badele ife. To fi de omo won. Ore issue to akoni. A ofi idare la le. Issue ma shemi o. Issue ma shemi. Omelo miwa Nicoloshe, pa ado asubida, no ado asusiwa. We say Ashe. For those who may not know the Oriki, well, we share any information so they could get a copy of the Yoruba as well as the translation. So when we say it, we don't have to be repeating because most time like what we just go way beyond our time. Well, today I want to still continue on the concept or the lesson that we were discussing from last week in terms of cultural transformation or restoration, cultural restoration. So I look at the cultural charter for Africa from the Organization of African Unity. All right, I think that really was supposed to be something that expand where we need diaspora, so also supposed to be where term as I think it's 13th or the 26th. I think the 13th region of the African Union. All right, I think we established ourselves enough to have a representative to sit in the African Union Parliament, but we supposed to have a representative there at that level. But I think we could only say if we in the diaspora really find that level of restoration to bring ourselves to really represent ourselves or be fully representing ourselves in identity that we confirm who we are. Right? I just want to put a part where they were speaking in terms of culture. All right. But this is where we were talking last week in terms of education and how we use the education that we are providing or offering to our people to help bring that kind of transformation or cultural restoration as our being. Right? In the chapter part 3 in the article 6, they say each African state recognizes that it is the working people who make history and establish the foundations and conditions for the advancement of culture, as culture has an innovating and beneficial influence on the means of production and on man. Each African state agrees to work with a national cultural policy for each state. This policy should be designed as a codification of social practice and concerted activities whose aim is to satisfy cultural needs through the optimal utilization of all the available resources, material and human resources. B, to integrate the cultural development plan in an overall program for economic and social development. And C, that individual states shall be free to establish their priorities and select the methods they consider best suited for attaining their cultural development objectives. And to that end, the individual states regard the following priorities and methods as guidelines. But I won't go into the priorities and things like that, but in terms of, as we trying to do in the diaspora, also the homeland was also trying to put that in place. Because remember, they also had to deal with the saxophone and the francophones and the Islam influences within their culture. So where you have now where the group is trying to reestablish the Oduduwa nation within Nigeria itself, separate from the Yorubas and separate from the one other. So there is where people try to connect back with their historical identity. So there's a clarity as to who they are. Because if we're in the age of the knowing, we still can be confused at what we is or who we are. You know, as we just always had the discussion about preserving Trinidad Orisa, but we never set a structure to really identify what is Trinidad Orisa. It's what you say, he say, they say, and them say, supposed to be what it is. But what you say, well, if we put a structure, we can identify this is what it is. So basically, that's why we always say we need to have our libraries, we need to have our museums. So when we speak of what is, even if we may not practice it, we can still point back to those areas or those items or icons to let people always remember. Because remember, a mortar and pestle was not something you just buy because Shango, you had to have a Shango stool and you want to buy it, have it turn it upside down. It was always something in an Orisha yard. Well, actually, it wasn't everybody, every African had a mortar and pestle. Not these now nice fancy one where you just have any countertop, but they had a big one with the big mortar and pestle that you're ponging all your thing outside in the yard. You know? So there are things that can identify our history, even connected to the homeland, but in terms of our cultural expression and our use and our identity as to what we develop with it. Because outside of ponging the yam and ponging in the Bigo Blue and tie-dyeing, we also would have created other meals and other things using the mortar and pestle, other than ponging for herbs and making medicine. Right? So how can we preserve these or have it where it could really still be part of the forward movement, but still can have a solid historical setting where we know, okay, this is what it is and this is what it used to be. You know? So into restoring our cultural history, don't mind the forward movement towards in a deeper understanding of Ifa, but when you look at the deeper understanding of Ifa, you see we ain't really moving far from our Orisha or our Trinidad culture. It's just we don't have a structure in terms of a society of elders or grimoires that could really, or say, transfer the information from one point to the next and still connect it to the Odus. And as it does do in some places, rewrite the Odu or write the new Odu. Yeah? Odus are just expressions of life experiences and how the Orisha or Ifa would have bring about a change in somebody's life. So yes, you might follow a story of an ancient priest that did divination for somebody in the past that they wanted the blessing of children or the blessing of the fruit of the womb. And they did the ebor and they were blessed with many children. But they did not do all the ebor, so the children were still fighting each other. So that we would have read, but also you can see it's even happening today. So yes, although we are repeating the Odu, but we could also add to the Odu because now we can say why they are fighting. Or what level of fight they are fighting. They're really fighting for kingdom again. The children will be fighting for the bag of beads or the bag of shells, but now we're fighting for land. We're fighting for the money in the bank. So it has that continuity, but also we could add to the story, as I say, we could add to the Odus within Ifa. Yeah. So in our restoration, we still have to find that point of where the unity will come between the Orisha, Ifa, and even as we just celebrated Baptist holiday, we also have to see where the Baptists also fit in, because a lot of our shrines that we have today, if you go history, they were Baptists, or they would have been a Baptist church within somewhere in that family line. because all the feasts waiting before the influx of what we call in Ifa temples now, or Ojubos and Iles and all these new terms. There was a Baptist church, or even the Pale was a Baptist church until the week for the feast. They put away their Baptist thing, they keep the feast, and after that, the next Sunday is Baptist. In fact, the Saturday morning is what used to be a Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Baptist Thanksgiving. We used to say the Saturday morning prayers or thing, and they bring and they full lady table and they prepare everything. What do we used to do? Keep our Baptist prayers, even when the Orisha's present. So his adoptions, his singing, his chants, his Sankey on the Saturday morning. That we used to call what? Glorious Saturday. So we have a rich history. We have a connection of past, present, and the future, all in one. But where's our museums or places to preserve these things? So in our restoration, yes, we can look we're modernizing now, because in an earlier period, I'd be in some church or some palace shouting at the top of my voice to share the same message I'm sharing now, and look, I'm sharing it as far as the media could carry it. So even reach around the world, and I'm sitting right here in my space. So you modernize, but you're still connecting to the present and the past, bringing message to help change the future. Right?
Definitely, Baba. I share.
So the restoration that we have to carry in terms of seeing how do we really preserve what we have to preserve in a way that in our movement forward, we can still not be lost. You know, I just found some things sometimes that say, well, you know, we become, I can't, well, I'm going to use the term colonize or Africanize, colonize, in an African sense, where we just move away from what we are to try to become what we want to be, but not realizing that, hey, we are actually a part of that story, but we are a different, we are on a different Odu. So we could continue the story from the Odu, which would have said that what they call the white people, I can't remember the name, they would use. They said they did the ebo that they could have slaves. And the people in the village did not do the ebo as was prescribed. And then they were captured. I don't know if it's a modern Odu that they try to justify slavery, because you know they say Odus can be written according to events take place. All right? So I was reading the Odu in terms of where the Big Mo, I can't remember the term for the white race, but he said
Well,
they
I
did.
think Oyimbo is the same.
Oyimbo.
Same as stranger.
Yeah. So the Oyimbo did the ebo that he could go and capture the village to be slave. When the villagers did ebo that to prevent, they say a stranger is coming to take control of your village and have the people as slavery, they should do the ebo. They say, now we have great warriors, we don't need to do the ebo. Right? So you have where there was a situation that came about, and we are the manifestation of that Odu in a sense. So not we, part of our ancestry, was part of that Odu experience. So what took place after that experience, actually our ancestors would have been the one to tell the stories in terms of their Odu to add to the story when the Oyimbo or the strangers came and captured them for not doing the above. Right? I really want to add. Right? So that is where we are. So in restoration, we had to go into the use the term Sankofa. We have to look back to understand where we're going forward. You know? So in our education, in our school, and yes, it's good that everybody teaching to say Oriki, sing the songs, know how to do the divinations, but we have to also be able to look at our past, understand the effects and situation as it would be, and how we could avoid the same mistakes that has been happening in the past that has hindered us from moving forward.
Well, Baba, in terms of the understanding and the role of Isheshe or tradition,
Mm-hmm.
when we are studying tradition and Isheshe, we cannot look at it only from the perspective of the fatherland or motherland, depending on how you refer to Nigeria. We also must consider where we are, what we have been through, to understand exactly who we are.
Yes.
What we have lost from the motherland and what we have brought from the motherland is part of what makes us who we are,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what makes our practice unique is our experience here in the diaspora. So that cannot be ignored when one
Mm-hmm.
considers Isheshe.
So that is, as the oracle say, what is Isheshe? They say all of the marriage is Isheshe. The Orisha is Isheshe. But also your mother is Isheshe. Your father is Isheshe. So it has where it can identify, as you just said, our experience also is a part of Isheshe that we have been living, but we do express it in our songs. We do express it in our thing. Yes, we may sing songs for Orishas, but how many songs or how many plays or how many little essay or stories really carry our story within the practice? Go to restoration. Right?
Well,
So I'm
Baba,
trying to get the.
as long as we're using the term
Mm,
restoration,
mm,
we're talking about bringing back something that was lost.
mm,
And, we should all be familiar with our history.
mm,
And we should all become familiar with what we have lost because we are no longer in a situation where we are being forced to be a particular way. We are now
mm,
free people, for want of a better word. Therefore, we should be now in the position where we can make choices, and the type of choices that we should be making should be the type of choices that would give our future generations an
mm.
opportunity to fulfill their destiny with
Right.
less um, difficulties.
Right. And that is where education is important. But I was contemplating something the other day. If we were to open a University of Ifa or Ifa University, who's to endorse it for it to be recognized?
Baba, if we were
Uh,
to open a university, we open a university. Why does
mm,
someone have to endorse it? Okay,
uh,
let me say this. The purpose of any educational institution is to provide some level of skill training and development for
yeah.
its population. All right, we have studied what a population is in one of our past programs. And once we understand that we are a community and we are, in fact, a nation of people, then we have to be the ones who must take the initiative and the responsibility to control the information that gets into the minds of our children. So
Yeah,
we
exactly.
don't need, per se, permission from anyone.
Mm,
However, because we live in a country that has an established education system, there would be standard requirements as far as providing skill development is concerned. So we would need to be on par with whatever that standard is.
mm,
Outside of that, sanctions, approvals, and anything that relates to our freedom as a people should lie exclusively with us and not with
exactly.
anyone else.
Right. Because I was looking at when the question came, when you talk about institute, there's talk about accreditation board. But I say, but if you have an accreditation board, who basically was structured by Western society, how can they give accreditation to us? So it's really we to give our accreditation, we to set the standard, and we to really put the structure and the curriculum to educate our people from basic stage, primary stage, into what we call university stage or tertiary stage. So that's what I say. So when we look, you know, because there were a lack of confidence in ourselves, because if we say we don't have a school yet, and even when we had schools, it didn't have the kind of support needed. I say, well, we really didn't have a school for us. We were just trying to fit a school into fitting into the school system that are there. Because
Baba, Baba, with time, all these things would come. What
yeah,
has to happen is we have to take our responsibility a
mm,
lot more serious as
yes,
far as providing information for members of our community. And I think that is what programs like this program
yeah,
is designed to do. You know, the time is long past.
long
We're not
overdue.
about the drama and the bacchanal, and no, we are about providing education and information, and even sometimes entertainment, because we know our people are a
Mm,
very highly spirited people, and our people love some entertainment mixed in the
mm,
education. So we
yeah,
don't keep all things totally separate, but the idea is to move our nation and our community forward
mm,
as a group. And our duty, people like us
mm,
who have access to these channels like social media and where we could reach lots of people, particularly young people, our responsibility is to provide as much information as
mm-hmm.
possible to facilitate the things that you just spoke about.
Yeah, right. And this is why, because as I say, we have to always bring the conversation, because yes, we are doing much, but there are what little you could do and what little I could do. But when we have the discussion, it can expand that there's more that others can do as well to really bring that level
So,
of commitment.
well,
You
again,
know?
Baba,
Mm,
we have a duty. We have to provide the information on what is
mm,
the basics of what the fundamentals of what we practice. And also, our duty is to guide individuals to shrines, to ilays, to temples, and sometimes even to churches, if I
mm.
am to use that term,
Yeah,
where
no,
they would receive the requisite information and knowledge on what we
exactly.
are about,
Mm,
what has to be done, and what their role is in contributing towards the building and the development of our community and our nation of people.
mm, right. And because we have to be the foundation of our future now. When I say be the foundation, we have to start to lay the foundation for what we would have received, receive it or receive it. You know? So we have the calabash. We receive this calabash, but after a while, it might get cracked, start to powder. But if it is, we say we're going to transfer it into our next vessel, we mustn't lose the essence of the calabash. You know? And this is what I think when people hear when I may propagate Ifa, I say, no, this is why I just use the term Ifa Orisa. Apply the wisdom of Ifa in our relationship with Orisha. So when we really go to them, we go to them with a clear level of understanding, and we could release something more solid. Because if you could relate initiation to Shango, Ogun, and the other Orishas, then when they say you should initiate into Ifa, you should not say, no, it's Orisha, it's Shango child. No, but Shango also initiated into Ifa. That he would be connected to the source of wisdom that helped him govern his community.
Well, Baba, I mean, I really want to go there,
Mm,
but generally we recommend that everyone become
mm,
initiated into Ifa. right? But then you have other people who are initiated into other Orishas.
Mhm.
All right. So, it's not a question of rather and prefer and choice and why. And I mean, we could go into that,
No,
right?
but
But
it
that
is an
that is a,
important.
that is a very controversial thing, because you would hear a lot of people say if you're not initiated into Ifa, you're not initiated at all as far as they are
No,
concerned.
but and this is why proper education that is given out to people, will allow people now that the conversations that are not going correctly, they could be able to discern. No, you're not talking correct, because if I see word now, if you want to say you're not initiating the IFA as to the religious aspect, as to be training for a priest, but you're practicing Ifa priesthood practices, then you could put the argument that no, you are not initiating Ifa, then you cannot be doing that. But when we say initiating the Ifa, we speak in terms of one finding their life path destiny. Because even when Shango was leaving to Orun to come to Aye, he went for divination. And he said he had was to do he was to receive. When Ogun was coming on a journey, he had was to initiate Ifa, but they say he was an ingrate. They said, why you going? Because when he initiated, he just left. He didn't even come back and show gratitude. But he was initiated. So many of the stories would tell you the importance of initiation for them to rise from one level of their life situation to elevate to the next level. Because now they could go along their destiny. We all went for divination before we leave heaven to earth. And if we did not do the necessary ebo to be successful, then we have to also go to Ifa to say, well, okay, what? But remember, a reading of your life path, to understand it, you have to do initiation to connect to Ifa, and if it is to go before the Odu in Igbodu, to know what it is you miss in your journey from Orun to Aye. When people go to a divination, just know they want to know, well, if the wife horning them, or if it is they go win the lotto. If that reading adjusted your situation presently now. So that is not to say, well, it could put you on your journey for the rest of your life. That's just the answer to your question and the situation. Or if I may say, the root of your problem is this and that in terms of what you're questioning about. But your whole life journey, because if you fix that problem, that don't mean your whole life is going to go well. You understand? So this is why I say the importance of early initiating is not to join IFA,
All right,
but
but
to
all
have
right, but
your, I say,
Baba,
manual.
probably we need to provide some information here, because we don't want to raise things up and then not sort of explain.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, all
Now,
right.
in terms of Ifa initiation, there is
Mm-hmm.
a general practice, and then there would be the exceptions where you would have extenuating circumstances where a person came to do a divination and they are
Mm-hmm.
told in order to correct a problem, they
You
need
need to
to be initiated. But
initiate it.
generally, most practitioners, for most practitioners, it is recommended
Mm-hmm.
that they take full Ifa initiation. There would
Yeah.
also be cases where a member of the community may not be able to afford right away to do full initiation.
So you do a hand of IFA.
So they may do what is
It,
called a hand of Ifa.
uh,
So I
it,
just wanted to plug that in
yeah.
so that we provide the necessary information so that no
Mm-hmm.
one is
Yeah.
confused by
No,
the
well,
things that
all
we
right.
are saying.
Because that is what I'm saying. That's why the discussions by bringing people awareness, because it also is to encourage people to always pay attention to the discussions, tap into the network and just browse on the different lectures that you might miss something and you might pick it up somewhere. But to understand, in terms of the process, it leads to one way, one direction, is really just to educate people about the tradition.
Noel Baba, on the network, we have several programs that attempts to do this. We have the Ifa Vimero show.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the traditional herbal health show that
Global.
teaches about
Mm-hmm.
health. because we are aspiring to be a balanced people. And without a good state of health, our mind would not function properly, and our spirit would to some degree be imbalanced. So we provide information in all areas and in all categories. And very soon, we will be having more programs on the network. So we will encourage the viewers, beside just having an interest in the things we discuss, we would advise for the viewers, you could contact us. We would, if you're interested in any aspect of the tradition, we would be able to tell you where local shrines are located and who are the chiefs, the leaders, the barbers of these shrines, and we could point you in the direction where you can do more than sit at home in an armchair view and look and listen at what Ifa Orisa is about. So we will encourage you all, if you're interested in finding out where a shrine is and where there are proficient individuals to teach you more about Ifa Orisa tradition, feel free to contact us, message us, and we would find out your location and guide you to the closest location where you could receive such teachings. Other than that, we are on here several times during the week and one day on the weekend, and we try our best to provide you with the necessary information that is needed. All right, but going back to the topic, Baba.
All right.
Right? Yes, initiation is recommended for everyone.
All right. And as you later say, restoration. So we come back to the restoration. We have to restore self, but be restored on a solid foundation, something solid, not a belief and well, I suppose. And they say, and somebody other day they saw me drinking palm oil and say, and they say you're dead if you drink palm oil. I said, well, I've been cooking it with so much of years. I think that might be true, but that was saying when we go by what they say and what is said and not have the full understanding is where this put us in a lot of setback, right? So it comes back to when we say the Eshu Mashemio, Eshu Mashemio, Eshu Mashemio, Omelo Miwani Koloshe, Pado Asubida, Mado Asusewa. Divine messenger, do not confuse me. Do not confuse me. Do not confuse me. Let someone else be confused. Turn our suffering around. Give us the blessing of the calabash. So sometimes we may not understand that by lack of not knowing. We might say, Eshu, don't confuse me, but sometimes we might be confusing ourselves by not having the right knowledge. Even understanding how are we connected to Orisha, we have to have the right knowledge, because some people have a cultural practice which they will say would be their traditional practice, and nothing wrong with it, but be knowledgeable that even whatever process you are going through, you can explain it from detail to detail. Okay, I am pouring libation that I may cool the energies, or I'm pouring libation to raise the energies. I am appeasing Eshu that he may open the doorway, or I'm appeasing Eshu that he may not give me trouble because of whatever matter. So we can, by that having our understanding, we could take ourselves to a level that is much higher, because some people think, okay, we there, this, we reach. Now, Wednesday was the celebration of Baptist holiday, and to me, I think part of the whole ceremony of celebrating the Baptist, we're supposed to be recognizing all those, those liberators or those warriors that was in the front battle that culminate that we have received the holiday today. That even when they say, well, we'll give all your festival day, short and thing as she is, Bishop Barbara Burke, she said, no, we want no festival. We want where bank, school, everything will close and we celebrate all day. And she's so strong, And all these we supposed to recognize, because they are us still. Even though we say we are Ifa Orisa, they are us still. They are our brothers and they are sisters.
Well,
They be
again,
different
again,
religion.
again, Baba,
Mm.
not cutting across you, but
Alright.
as I've mentioned before, it is very important for us to understand the concept of Isheshe,
Mm.
not just what came from the motherland, but we also have
Also
to
what here?
understand what has been practiced in the diaspora,
Mm.
why it has been practiced, whatever changes were made, why they were made. And in knowing these things, we would be preserving to a great extent
Mm.
our history that makes us different
Mm.
in practice from other people in other parts
Mm.
of the world.
Yeah.
So that records of that history
Mm.
becomes an essential part, not just in the practice, but in the explanation of what we also practice.
Mm. All right. And that is very important for us. And because remember we are about restoring, not just restoring the tradition and practice, but also restoring our dignity, restoring our strength as a people, also restoring the discipline that was culminated around us. You know? Because yes, people might be connected to Orisha. Yes, they may be connected or they may have certain titles. But they also have to, there was a certain discipline in our tradition. Like when we watch, we used to hear these stories of the elders. And even when we were young one running and people in the pali was never really crowded, you know. Because all the elders would have been sitting down in the pali. And the children would have been on the outside of the pali. But what people do, they building the walls higher now in the pali. So everybody had to come inside because you can't see. But the elders used to say, but because remember, it is very undisciplined to stand up in front of a elder with your back to them. You understand? That
Yeah,
was a natural discipline.
well, Baba, I mean,
Mm.
it's good that you would bring up these things
Mm.
because, as far as protocols are
Mm.
concerned, a lot of these things has to be discussed. I think one of the things we need to do, and for Baba,
Mm.
who soon would be having his own program, I think one of the programs we need to introduce is
Mm.
a program where we would have mainly elders as guests on the show
Mm.
that would speak about some of the protocols of time gone by
Okay.
that we have lost,
Mm.
that we need to have reinstated, as that is
Mm.
the topic we're discussing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it is difficult for us to have expectations for younger people, for the youths, without even providing for them a background in the form of
Mm.
history and a set of principles
Mm.
which explains why they do or why they should do
Should
particular
do so.
things
Mm.
and how that would benefit our community.
Mm.
That, I think, is the missing dialogue in the whole conversation,
Mm.
and it is something that we need to start having because this would be an opportunity for us to record, whether it's through this form or any other form,
Mm.
a lot of the lost aspects of our local Isheshe.
Mm. Right? And that is important because you know you hear you hear people saying, "Oh, the powers are not ain't coming as powerful as they used to come again, man." No, it's not really power. No, some of them they have certain levels of class and integrity that they won't just put their foot anyway. So yes, the little ashy in some of them will shake and awaken, but for the powers to really come down, we have to have all the things correct. Because let me understand. Now I just say it's inner power manifesting out. But let me say the outer universe or the cosmic energy coming to manifest within. That power that is supposed to have, and there's so much of things not in tune, what do you think really would happen to us? You know? We have to be mindful that all rituals, all ceremonies has certain protocols. It's not just a protocol because this is how we just do it. It's protocol because there are certain repercussions. There are things that can be very harmful to us, you know. So someone used to say, "Oh, you don't use Shapana unless you're using you invoking him to send a spell or poison a village or send a plague somewhere," because Shapana really would represent that nature of him. We just say now, "Hey, Shapana," we call Shapana.
Yeah, but then, Baba, that would be only one side of the coin.
Well,
Because as much as we look to Shakpana for that, he would also be the one to remove the said things.
right. Now to
When
bring
it becomes a problem. So that is the idea of
right. So I just show you now how when you go back to if we go back to the source and the past, when we call him to bless us, Babalua ye ye, Babalua ye. So we honor him. And there's many other nicknames we'll use in honor him that for him to fight for us, for him to protect us, for him to feed us. You understand? So that's it. When there were the discussions that you understand and there were the principles in what songs to use when and what to use when and what not to use, it would have been the discussions amongst the elders. Because I'll say when it was the elders, a chant well would have been a man well learned. Not a man well know the songs, but one who is well learned. So by the time he see a particular movement or a sign, he would already bring the necessary orin or song or the chant in terms of that aspect and draw what he's supposed to draw. But now when your people just they know songs, they just sing. They just follow a pattern, not singing along with the thing. That even some of them, you're singing for Oshun and his Oya there. And when things, you say, "Oh, but I know," or we go say, "Well, nah, that had to be a cross spirit because I sing for Oshun and Oya there." But are we looking at the sign or checking in terms of what songs we are singing? Because there's Oya and Shango songs. There's also Oshun and Shango songs. There's Oshun and Ogun songs. Oshun and Ogun and Oya songs, because remember Oya and Ogun were married in a situation, so he would have a song for that. So there's a lot of things where the elders in our space, because our songs are very, very different to theirs in the homeland, right? So our songs would have a certain phrasing or a certain expression for things, but so all this we have to get in our restoration. All these things we have to get when we say we edifying and educating people. We have to go back to the source. In terms of our source in Trinidad, what was and what is. So when somebody started to do Simberi, we could clearly understand it. Or most say, well, in Simberi is when they just cut your head. Yeah, but when they cut your head, what does do? Well, there's like the blood of the goat or something mixed with your blood. Now that could be true in a sense, but what is the esoteric or the science with it? So there's a lot of things we have to do in terms of education and in terms of us restoring ourselves, restoring the tradition as we move into the future, because it's not that we say we're going backwards. As we are moving into the future, we're supposed to still be able to know, well, okay, this is what was because so, and we have adjusted it because now it need to do this, and then now we sure that anybody take it from there into the future, they're sure that they understand what they're doing. I'm okay with a group that is looking to do an African village. Now, they're recognizing the aspects of the tradition should be an important part. But if they are not initiated or they are not practitioners, but they want to give us the respect, I say, okay, we would like to give a space to the Ifa Orisa community to put a temple in this African community.
No, well, Baba, you can't have a community, a traditional community without a temple or without that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, that's it. So it's a Black African centric group, but they want to give respect to the spiritual aspect. So they say, okay, I'll offer you a peace salad. So you only could build the temple. Right? So they say the temple is the center of the tongue. And going there, we're supposed to be able to go there with a solid structure, solid
Agreed.
foundation and principles.
Well, Baba, as you mentioned that too, so now that brings on another aspect of responsibility towards individuals like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because beside providing information for members of our community, we also have an obligation to provide information to the general public who
Yes.
have no knowledge, no idea of what Ifa Orisa is,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for people who belongs to our nation
Mm-hmm.
and has been conditioned to not want any association with
All right.
anything African.
True, true.
So that now what you just did in reinstating
Mm-hmm.
the responsibility goes to our community and it also goes to members of our nation, our group or race, depending on how you wish to call it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a responsibility to show them what they have lost and what they need to be a part of moving forward.
Right? Because as I tell most people, you don't have to be a practitioner before you say it. They say, I know. I say, but you are a part of it still. They say, how? I say, well, you have a worry. And even if you may follow, don't follow, the principles still stand because your Ori would have went for divination. Your Ori would have set a pathway. Your Ori would have either did Ebo, didn't do Ebo, and your Ori would have chosen its destiny. So yes, we just say we all, oh, I'm on my destiny path. Yes, we just say Ipori, which means the same thing. Oh yes, you have a guardian angel. Yes, we have Orisha, which is almost the same thing. So there's similarities, but to get that harmony, or let's call religious tolerance. You know, I think
Baba, Baba, I don't like that term.
Religious tolerance.
Yeah, let me tell you why I don't like the term.
uh,
We shouldn't tolerate each other. What we should do
uh,
is try to understand each other.
well, understand and respect. Okay.
Yeah, tolerate is just like putting up with somebody who have bad ways. We don't need to do that.
Yeah.
What
Well,
we need to do is spend the time, reach out to each other, find out what our particular ideas are and our needs are, and that way we could support and help each other. We don't want to tolerate nobody.
but
We want to understand people.
but at the controversially say we have to be able to even tolerate some within we own clique. But that is what I'm saying. In terms of for people to understand us, we should be able to now put out what we are, what we represent in a clear, concise, understandable way that people could respect. And so when they identify, they can say yes. So if at a roundabout in a tongue, it is important that if I says that we should put an issue at the entrance of your tongue to prevent that. We should not have to study if it is, boy, I wonder if. By the time we go to the mayor or the representative and say, okay, this is an important message and I think we have to do something. So we will wish to do so. And we could do it. We have to do something running in dark. And so when people pass in the morning, they see a dead fowl at the side by a traffic light and whatever, what, then they start to talk about Ubia. But it will give us the level of respect that people know a ceremony was done for the benefit of the whole community by a small sector of the community that is also seeing about the well-being of the community in the spiritual aspect.
Well, again, Baba, evangelism and us sensitizing non-Orisha practitioners who are members of the communities we live in, we have a responsibility to eradicate some of the misconceptions they may have and to remove the factors of fear that exist in the minds of people. And we can only do this if we share information with others.
I like that term evangelizing. But the other day somebody asked a question, I said, what are we going into? But a few years, I think I think it's the same former president of the International Council of Ifa Religion, who really gave a definition of Ifa evangelism. And that's really just sharing the message publicly about what the tradition represents or what is the principles that
Well,
governs the tradition.
Baba, that is in fact a part of one of the 8 essences of Ifa.
All right.
So anyone who is initiated
Mm.
and anyone who is, because you don't have to be initiated to be fully aware
True.
of the precepts of Ifa. Ifa teaches that evangelism is in fact one of the principles that are used by adherents who practice
Of the practice.
Ifa. So it is one of the 8 essences. Many people may not know it, but it is important for us to share this with members of the community and as well as the public.
True. And so foundation, the root, the restoration is education. Whatever
Definitely, Baba.
is education.
Definitely.
The cultural, spiritual, religious, education is important. And I think people, invest in your education. I have a favorite bishop, but he was a 70s. Well, Bishop Moponga, from South Africa. Yeah. He said, let your hairstyle be more expressive than your hairstyle. He said, don't spend $400 to do your hair, but you will spend $20 to educate your head.
The man have a point, and he has wisdom, whether he's Adventist or whatever.
Yeah.
He is bringing a message to our people.
Yeah, right? That's my mentor.
The evangelism that we mentioned is part of the third one of the 8 essences.
8 essence of
Ifa. It falls under the religious essence. All right? And that relates to faith, belief, catechism, and Ifa propagation or evangelism. So it is the part of the responsibility of those who are propagating Ifa to perform what is referred to as evangelism. One does not, again, have to be initiated to understand the precepts of Ifa.
Yeah. And I always tell people, share Ifa. Yes, it will have, because they are looking at the different types of initiation or different areas of initiation into Ifa. But these are for people who want to specialize in Ifa. But so when you have to do these studies, you may have secrets or things that is not shared publicly and to be open for everybody to hear. But there are principles of Ifa that every single person should hear. So even in terms of you go in the barber shop, you can talk Ifa. You're in the grocery, you can share Ifa. You're in the market, you share Ifa. No.
Baba, one of the realities is that most people would be afraid of that because of the stigma and the perception associated to Orisha. So while we're talking, we need to also be realistic, and we need to be thinking, we need to be pragmatic.
Yeah. And I say proper knowledge, proper information, that when what we share, we could share it with a level of wisdom. I just be discussing Ifa, and I don't have to say Ifa and Orisha, but I could have the conversation of morals, ethics, and principles. Because there was a writer, there was a discourse where Baba Oduduwa, there's a group that has invoked Baba Oduduwa, and he does give a discourse, and they just share the discourse with the Baba. And there was one where say, what is your religion? So when Ifa see you, does Ifa see you as part of his religion? But Ifa, in terms here saying, for Ifa to see one of his person in terms of as a religion, it is only by your character and your integrity that Ifa or Orunmila will see you as one of his children as a religion. So even if we say we initiated, we are still measured by our character and integrity. That Orumila say, yes, you are truly my child.
Baba, on
Uh,
I mean, we've done many shows on Iwa Pele, Iwa
yeah.
Rere, Omoluabi. We've discussed these things quite a bit,
Mm,
right? One of the problems that I've encountered and I've heard much discussions about
mm,
is the fact that when we talk about good character,
mm,
it is a much abused term. And many a times the persons who use the term loosely
mm.
and with
Orumi.
malicious intent.
Uh, so you must have
Right?
Iwa Pele. Good. No,
You,
Iwa
you must
Riri.
have ira weary. Yes, no, and it's a serious
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
because a lot of times people may not know an
Mm,
individual. They may hear things of the individual.
mm,
Sometimes the things they may hear may be exaggerated and might even be plainly untrue.
mm,
And they may judge the person wrongfully. So the term Iwapele, to me, is something that one has to be very careful
mm,
when using the term as a term of fascination and endearment concerning
mm.
person's character, particularly when you do not know the individual. It is
Sure.
nothing to be taken loosely and lightly. Now, mind you, when we speak of Omoluabi and we talk about ethics
Mm,
and the conduct of people, there are some things included as a desirable characteristics, and among them is having a good sense of judgment and using one's intellect.
mm,
So, a lot of times, if people come to you and they have things to say about other people, if they do not bring the person before you as a witness where they can defend themselves
mm.
when allegations are being made about
You
them,
against them.
one is showing very poor judgment. It does
Mm,
not make for the ideal ethical characteristics that are outlined in what is considered Omoluabi.
mm.
And
Right.
as a result of which, it does not lend to Iwarere or having a good character.
Mm.
So I think many persons would prefer to say Iwapile, which would refer only to the gentle character
Gentle character.
and never
Mm,
to a person having a sound sense of judgment,
mm.
which is what
Omoluapi.
Omoluabi
Mm,
emphasizes as one of the main characteristics. Because with Omoluabi, the 10 to 12 characteristics that are listed, they are listed in an order of importance.
mm,
And one of those important character is a person's ability to express themselves intelligently
mm,
and to be able to act in an intelligent manner.
mm.
All right, so much for that. Let me allow you to go
All
further.
right. No, just well, as you were referring to judgment, in terms of remember the principles, our responsibilities as Ifa Orisa devotees. I'm reading from Chief Odowo. Let me get his name correctly. From the International Council Ifa Religion. I'm not promoting the Ifa religion on the program, but I'm talking about what the former
No,
head.
no, Baba is all right. You could promote
All
Ifa's
right.
religion because a
All right.
lot of the listeners may not
Good.
be as clear and as
Mm.
adept in understanding the contrast between tradition and religion.
Traditional
Religion
religion.
is a part of the
Yes, of
tradition.
course.
But
Right.
what we have is tradition, which is by far wider than
Mm.
just this one topic called religion. So yes, you could refer to Ifa as
All right.
religion because we
So,
have a religious aspect.
So according to Professor Udowo Bolofende Odeyemi, right, who was our foundation president of the International Council for Religion, one of the essence we're going to talk about in terms of one aspect of Ifa, which is judgment. But I want to do the introduction and you do. But as I say, he says, I'll quote, our responsibilities as Ifa Orisa devotees is to ensure that the qualities of the lives of individuals, groups, communities, and nations are improved spiritually, morally, socially, economically, psychologically, physically, mentally, and religiously, without recourse to racial, socio-economic, class, or any form of bigotry. Each and every Ifa temple must strive to remove the following from the lives of individuals and groups: meaninglessness, powerlessness, normlessness, valuelessness, hopelessness, godlessness, and self estrangement. And in their place, there must be the entrenchment of the following: meaningful quality of lives, social interactions, spiritual harmony, economic empowerment, hope, mutual trust, belief in the Almighty Olodumare, affiliating with the Romale and Orisha and emulating their thoughts, speeches, and deeds, building communal living interests, adding value to lives, empowering of self and others, and ensuring that there are individuals and group participation in all positive activities.
I share,
Right?
I
So,
share, I share. Baba, we just crossed the hour, so we're gonna have to wrap up.
yeah, so it's saying in our restoration, we ain't just talk about restoration just to say, well, oh, we're going to change and start to wear traditional clothes and change our name. But in terms of building a better community, a community that can sustain itself, a community that can stand up on something solid and not hearsay, they say, and whatever somebody say, but on what is the principles that has been placed to guide us to bring our lives to a betterment, our community, our nation. What are we based upon? The words of God? Okay, let me understand the words of God because that is our essence. We are, what I say, spirit beings having an earthly experience. Our Ori is the representative of God, Olodumare, he or she, and we are to contribute to make this world a better place. As they say, the men, the broken calabash. With this, I say Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, and Odabo.
And we'd say
Until our next.
Odabo. Again, viewers, just remember to like, share, and subscribe. And at the end of this video, another video will be introduced. Please take the time off to look at that video and enjoy. Odabo.
Odabo.